Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars universe seems to be quite expansive, not just with their new Star Wars comics, books, novels, and video games, but also, let's not forget about the new Star Wars TV shows and Star Wars movies that are currently in development as we speak, by, of course, Bob Chapek, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and others hopping on board over at Lucasfilm. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new Star Wars universe is that a lot of Star Wars fans have been fully invested in what Jon and Dave are currently crafting behind the scenes, as well as what the roadmap is going to consist of at Star Wars Celebration in Europe next year. So for those of you that have been unaware, Celebration of 2023 is going to be full of Star Wars announcements. By far the biggest list of announcements of any Star Wars celebration yet. And that's because Disney really wants to show the fans how expansive Star Wars is going to become for the franchise. So at the end of the day, there's been a lot of setbacks happening back and forth between different Star Wars projects and films. I'm sure that you guys have been informed and already know about the whole situation related to Patty Jenkins and her Rogue Squadron film and how that has been now taken off the release window of the Star Wars universe. And it's looking like it's seemingly canceled altogether. Now, moving forward from all of that, that brings us to yet another Star Wars director and writer that's facing a lot of problems and is heading into a lot of big trouble with Disney over a couple of different reasons, and we're going to tap into that in just a second. So, with that being said, this is going to be yet another prime example of Disney prematurely announcing Star Wars projects and then canceling them. So, with Disney and Lucasfilm now focused on their new Star Wars TV shows and movies, they are about to become a part of the roadmap of Star Wars. Now, Disney executives have been making some key decisions lately for their new Star Wars movies. One of the most recent changes that Disney is currently going through is in the process of firing a big director and writer for one of their new Star Wars films that has been in the early development phase now for one whole year. Now, it's noted that Disney is in the process of firing director and writer Taika Waititi and are getting ready to cancel his Star Wars film and fill in the slot with a better talent. For those of you that do not know who Taika Waititi is, this is the creator of Thor: Love and Thunder, also simply known as Thor 4. So this is actually described to be one of the solo Star Wars films that was going to explore a brand new era in the Star Wars franchise. Waititi already had ideas for a script of the film, however the script was not written, that was going to focus on events thousands of years into the future after the events of the sequel trilogy movies, to write a film on a blank canvas. Now, Waititi's plans for his Star Wars film was to turn it into a Star Wars movie that would focus on the rise of a new darkness that would be the successor of the Sith, something new that fans have never seen before in the Star Wars universe, both in canon and in Legends. So let me pause here for a second. Basically, this was Waititi's idea, was to create a Star Wars story based thousands of years into the future. Now, this basically is like the Old Republic going in a different direction. The Old Republic, for those of you that don't know, takes place thousands of years in the past. Basically, Waititi wanted to do something thousands of years set in the future. Now, we don't really know the context of anything or details about what it was going to entail. Whether or not it was going to be about the Jedi, who knows? It may have not been. But all we know is that it was going to focus on a new darkness rising, the successor of the Sith, basically creating something more evil than the Sith. And I don't know if that's really going too far or really overreaching or trying too hard. But to me, I think that at the end of the day, when you're changing things a little bit too much that fans are unfamiliar with, you might be playing with fire a little bit. It's best to kind of throw these ideas in the canon and or the lore first, such as comics and books, see how the fans like that idea. If they do, fine, so be it, make a movie on that. If they don't, then don't make a movie on that. I think it's a great way to kind of familiarize everything with the fans. That's just me, though. So, moving forward from all of this, this is where things begin to get even more complex, is that this idea was eventually scrapped early on in the process, and ever since Waititi's Thor Love and Thunder film did not get the best fan reception and reviews, Disney is deciding to pull the plug on Waititi and is awaiting to make an official announcement, much like with what they did with Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron film. Now, in addition, Waititi is trying to fight for his Star Wars movie to move ahead, as Disney is in the planning stages of firing him from the Star Wars franchise. This slot is now beginning to be filled with somebody more experienced as both a writer and a director, and Disney is looking for someone who is an actual Star Wars fan. This is yet another prime example of announcing a project prematurely that eventually gets cancelled and loses its creator in the process. So, one thing I do want to add here real quick that I think a lot of fans need to know that's very important is that this film was not going to be released until a very long time from now anyway. This was going to be initially 2025, and that even was looking unlikely because of all the setbacks. So, the Solo movies, alright, so far have not been doing too well. They're mainly focusing on trilogies now. Alright, that's what Disney executives are trying to pull through by continuing the Skywalker saga with episodes 10, 11, and 12. We talked about this. There are extensive plans happening and brewing behind the scenes, along with a new trilogy that's going to debut on the Disney Plus platform that's going to feature all the Mandalorian era characters. So, the Solo films are not panning out. Patty Jenkins' movie Rogue Squadron is falling apart, and most likely just canceled altogether. And basically everything that has been happening with Kevin Feige's movie, that's also falling apart. Taika Waititi's now is also falling apart. They want to focus on trilogies again, and that's exactly where things are going, as we talked about this about 2 weeks ago, one of which is going to be a new sequel trilogy in a sense, where it's going to be a series of films that are going to be based on the characters that you see in the Mandalorian series. Now, some fans may not like this because some fans want something new, something fresh, brand new characters, etc., and I understand that, I do. But so far, the Solo films aren't going so well. Now, they are still going to focus on Solo films, but they might be focusing on more familiar aspects of Star Wars instead of the whole writing something on a blank canvas technique, right? So, Taika Waititi, to be honest, kind of not all that, much, downed about this. I feel that they could have always gotten somebody better, and that's exactly what they are going to do. They're now focusing on filling this slot in and getting a more experienced writer and director to handle this new Star Wars movie. There's a lot of talk right now that Tony Gilroy is going to actually fill in for a Star Wars movie after his much praise with Star Wars Andor. Of course, that's coming from reviewers. We'll have to wait and see how the audience likes this. So far, the trailers are looking pretty solid, but is it really going to have all that much hype compared to The Mandalorian? That depends. So, anyways, guys, there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm. Let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.